Hi Shannon, here is panel 4. This is going to be a panel that's more about what I remember from my own life. Some of this is a little bit earlier than that. But I'm going to show you, I think I'm going to start on the right side and show you a picture of my mother in her wedding dress. And here she is. Doesn't she look lovely? She had a very small wedding as far as I can tell, just one maid of honor, maybe a matron of honor, I'm not sure. That was her sister, Virginia. This is a picture of the marriage certificate. So you can see William S. Arnold Jr. of Baltimore, Maryland is marrying Louise P. Smith. That's Louise Powell Smith. Remember my great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother's last name was Powell. So my mother got her name as her middle name of Baltimore, Maryland. They were married in Maryland on the 14th day of September, 1946, by this Reverend Bunce. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he might have been a relative of ours as well. You can see the witness was Virginia Cooley, her sister. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is show you some early pictures. This one is actually, I don't know what date this is, but I was fascinated by this picture. This is my grandfather Arnold, my father's father, and his second wife, Lee. Remember, Lillian Lee. I'm not sure if that's in their old backyard, Nottingham Road. It looks like it might be, and that's, remember, the miniature house I have at home is from Nottingham Road. What's interesting to me here is this picture where Lee is smoking a cigarette and drinking some alcohol, no doubt, as is my grandfather. They were big drinkers and smokers, so it wasn't really so much fun to go over to their house every other Sunday, particularly when it was inside. Here they're outside on the patio at least. Anyway, that's a picture of them. Here is kind of a cute little picture. My next door neighbor, Miss Marie, took this picture of my sister and me. One time she took us across the street to, actually across Bologna Avenue at the end of the street, where there was this open area. It was basically the Sisters of Mercy. A bunch of nuns had this area. It was really pretty, and she just took us along and took these pictures of us. Miss Marie was a chemist as well, maybe a chemical engineer, but given the time period in the 50s and 60s, she was a single woman all her life because you either had a career or you got married. Here's a picture that I found and I liked. It's a picture of me, you could see as a small child, next to my dad. And then here's a picture of mother and the two daughters. Of course, my sister Barbara on the left and me on the right. Your grandmother in the middle. This was taken the same day as this other picture in our backyard. I remember this day really well because I think I'd come home from college and there was a lot of friction in the family. I don't know if you can tell with my sister. She was pretty alienated from my parents at this point, and so my mother wanted the four of us to have this picture taken together, and this is how it came out in our backyard. Let's see, here's a picture in contrast. Many years later, here's the picture of the three of us that I really kind of like. This picture was taken at my father's funeral, actually, in 1994. What else do I have here? Here are my two grandmothers. It's so funny. They always seem to dress with the same colors. And I don't know how that worked. They weren't particularly friends. On the right is my grandmother Smith. On the left is Lee, my step-grandmother Arnold. But I kind of like this picture of the two of them. They're standing outside of my grandmother Smith's house. And they are pretty much the way I remember them in my memory of childhood. see what I want to show you next. Here, remember, I had pictures of my grandfather before. I have some really great memories of sitting on my grandfather's lap and hearing his stories of his life. So this was the only picture I found that was like that. I'm pretty old there. I'm probably about 8 years old. And it was before, I think, my grandfather became so afflicted by dementia that he stopped talking pretty much altogether. Didn't tell me those stories anymore. It was very sad for me. I didn't, of course, understand what was going on at the time as a child. Below that picture is the one picture I could find of Aunt Ginny. She was very important in the family, as well as you see her on the right, my mother on the left, and my grandmother in the middle. This is after my grandmother moved to a nursing home. She eventually died, probably of dementia as well, just like my grandfather did at age 94. My grandfather died at age 85. And that was back in, I think it was something like 1973 or so. Just for irony, I thought I'd throw this in. This was in my mother's collection of things. This is the picture of my sister in probably the Baltimore Sun, showing that she is going to be married to Mr. Rembert B. Herbert Jr. And she did get married to Rembert for a while, and she was married to him for a while. So I just thought that was great. You know, she looks like such the perfect daughter with the pearls around her neck and everything. You can really tell it's the must be about late 1960s, early 70s. Over here is a picture you might remember we have on the piano, on the top of the piano. That was one of my mother, or maybe my parents' favorite pictures of themselves. It's taken in Williamsburg. I think it's around 1973, but a little before you would have known them. But I think they didn't look that much different after that. So there's a picture of that for you. And also, I found this picture, which is where my father was making inventory of all the things in the house. That's why the numbers are there. But do you remember this? This was in the basement, and this is my father's train garden that he had set up there. It was much less complicated than what he had originally had in his shop, which was several different levels. But as he simplified his life, he brought it into what we used to call the rumpus room, and had it operating on this table. There's also a ship that he put together on the wall that he constructed. He might have made that with his father. This picture, within the picture of a chemist, that's an oil painting on the wall. I don't know what happened to that picture, but my grandfather painted that for my postage stamp, and I really liked it. I really would have liked to have had it in my house, but somehow it got moved somewhere else. So anyway, that is that's what I have for this more contemporary look at family history from the Arnolds.